So now that we've finished all of our cuts, it's time for us to start wiping down our stations, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some knife maintenance as well. So as we're getting ready to put things away, here's a couple of things you want to remember about cleaning your knives. We're going to take the knife, and to clean it, we have a towel with some sanitizing solution over here. You want to lay the knife down flat on the table, and you want to wipe the knife in such a way that your fingers are never getting close to the cutting edge of the blade. So we'll wipe one side, we'll turn it around, we'll wipe the other side, we'll wipe down the hand a little bit, and that's pretty much all we need to do with it. Same thing with the paring knife. Lay your paring knife on the table, wipe the blade on one side, wipe the blade on the other side, wipe down the handle, and then your knives are nice and clean and ready to go. In addition to keeping your knives clean, it's also really important to keep your knives sharp, and that's one of the other common questions that I hear a lot from my students is how do you properly sharpen a knife? So for sharpening a knife, it's basically a two-stage process, or two different ways that you can sharpen your knives. The first way is going to be using a sharpening stone. Now a sharpening stone is a very aggressive instrument, and it will actually remove or grind down the edge of your knife the same way you might sharpen a pencil. So if your knife has gotten to the point where it's very dull and you can't do much with it, then the sharpening stone is what you're going to need to do. So this particular stone has two sides to it. It's got a coarser side and a fine side, and if you can think of almost like sandpaper, you would do some rough sanding with coarse paper and then a smooth finish sanding with a fine sandpaper. We're going to do the same thing here with this stone. Now when we use the knife on the stone, we want to make sure we use the entire cutting edge of the knife along the entire surface of the stone, and the most important thing is to maintain this 22.5 degree angle. We've chosen this angle because it's really the most efficient. If you can imagine the cutting edge of your knife, or the bevel on your knife wants to be at about 22.5 degrees. If the bevel is any wider than that, then it's very easy for that bevel to somewhat round over. And if the bevel is much thinner than that, then it's very thin, almost like a pencil point. As soon as you touch it to the cutting board, it may snap, or it may actually bend or roll over like this. And it's again where the steel might come in, and we'll talk more about the steel in a moment. So for the sharpening stone, what we want to do is, if you say that that's 90 degrees, about half of that is 45 degrees, and about half of that is 22.5 degrees, which is where you want to go. So we start at the tip, and we push all the way up and wind up at the heel, maintaining that 22.5 degree angle. And we're going to do that about 10 times on each side of the blade. Once I'm done 10 times on that side, I just like to take a little water, rub a little water on the stone, keeps it clean and it keeps it lubricated. And now I'm going to turn the knife over and basically repeat the process in reverse, starting from the tip, heel rather, and running all the way down to the tip. We're going to do this 10 times also, so whatever we do on one side, we do for the other side. And if you take a look at your knife now, depending on how you hold it, you should be able to see about 1/8 of an inch to 1/16 of an inch of a shiny spot along the edge. That's the bevel. If you can see that 1/8 of an inch to 1/16 of an inch, that means you've got a good angle. If it's any thinner than that, that means your knife is up too high. And if it's wider than that, or you see scratches in the blade, that means your knife is down too low. So we do it 10 or so times on each side, on the coarse side of the stone, and then we'll flip it over to the fine side of the stone here. We're going to just lubricate the fine side of the stone a little bit and basically do the exact same thing. We'll do about 10 times on either side, and that should be all you need to do. So the next question is, how often do I need to do this? And the answer to that is, well, it's really up to you. You're going to have to notice when your knife is showing you a decrease in performance, and then that's when you might need to visit the stone. The way that you can avoid visiting the stone so often is to use the steel more. Because what the steel does is the steel will help to keep your knife edge straight. Again, during normal use, that knife edge will begin to curl over as you beat the knife against a stone, or the wood rather, or against some hard vegetables. The steel will take that bent edge and straighten it up somewhat. But the steel can only do that to a certain point. Once the edge really starts to roll over, the steel's not going to help you, and you have to go back to the stone. So to use the steel, we basically do the same thing. You take that steel and you create that same 22.5 degree angle with the knife on the steel, and you rub the knife from heel to tip on one side and from heel to tip on the other side. And you don't need to do this too much. 3 or 4 passes on either side is all you need to do. And again, if you do that when you first take your knife out of your bag, if you do that every time you pick up your knife to start another task, make 2 or 3 passes, and if you're involved with a lot of cutting and you begin to feel a decrease in performance, stop, pick up your steel, and make that same few passes on there. That's all you need to do to maintain your knife. So a steel will not sharpen a knife. A steel will make a sharp knife sharper. A steel will keep a sharp knife sharper longer. And if you don't use the steel as much, you're going to wind up having to visit the stone a lot more. And the problem with that is the stone just wears down your knife too fast. So now once we're done sharpening the knives, we'll just take it again and wipe them off so they're nice and clean. Then we'll go back to our knife kit. Take our nice protective guards, slip the knife into the guard, slip the knife back into our bag, and we're ready to wrap it up. Okay? All right, so let's all go wipe down our stations, sharpen our knives, and get ready to move on.